for episode 4. So Dear Billy, so essentially this whole episode revolves mostly around Max and, her dealing with her inevitable fate, which she made Vecna, tormenting her in her mind and her seeing her visions. But we're presented it to what we believe are the FBI, which I'm assuming they're not actually the FBI. They're sort of, some people not sort of portraying who they're supposed to be. But as they're coming in, we've got Max in the school, and she is starting to see the clocks, and you can see that the tension is really building for her. So we can see that due to all these imageries, like we're assuming she's getting the headaches like all the other victims sort of did as well. But the whole tension around it is really cool. We can sort of see Lucas as well. He's really having that emotional pull between helping his friends and wanting to fit in with the jocks. So the jocks are trying to, know that he's withholding information from them. So they're sort of still thinking that he's on their side, but essentially he throws that all away and just legs it away from the basketball team and just runs back to help the crew. There's a little bit of that tension where they hear a noise. We sort of know what's going to happen because we saw Lucas run, and he's run like a mile from the woods. He's got the lamp, and it's building, and it does get that jump scare, so there is that payoff for the jump scare, but we can sort of see them all starting to reunite and sort of be able to move forward together rather than the separate entities that they were. But we are still having the two teams. Will were away, and Elle was obviously in that group as well, and then these guys are back in Hawkins, sort of dealing with the murders that are happening in the hellhole that is Hawkins. They have Nancy and Robin. They're going about their, Scooby detective sort of life, and they realise after their lucky find in the newspaper that they need to go see Victor, and they find out where Victor is. Nancy forges a lot of documents, and there's a fun little scene of getting Robin to actually dress up to make sure that she's looking like an academic scholar, where she goes pretty heavy on the one-liners. Like, it's a constant theme throughout, where I think it's just due to binge watching the show that I've actually gone, all right, you need to tone down the one-liners, Robin. But overall, like, majority of them hit, so I reckon she's probably at like a 70-80% hit mark, where some of them are a bit, let's move on from that. But this whole dynamic between Nancy and Robin is fun to watch. So they're dressing up, they're going to try and meet Victor. So their whole entrance into being able to see Victor, like Victor's performance, there's a payoff where they're actually in talking to I guess it's the dean or the head psychologist or whatever they're called. I'm not sure what the profession's called. But they're in there, and Nancy's trying to lead this conversation, but Robin all of a sudden just has enough. Like, obviously you can see her anxiety building, you can see her frustration, and she just goes on a rant to the point where I don't know what he's thinking. Like, he's like, there's a policy or a process that we've got to follow, but he's just like, nah, no worries, you guys can go in. Like, I don't know, it's a convenient writing from the writers, or are people that bad at their jobs where they're like, nah, sorry, I can't let you in, just like, you did a really good speech, so I'm going to let you go in. To the point where they really try and push their luck, and there's remnants of them coming in, which is kind of similar to the Silence of the Lambs. Like, it's a really cool throwback. You can see there's a little bit inspiration there, but as they go into the psych ward, they're like, can we talk alone? And old mate's like, I'm sort of onto you. But he's like, yeah, no worries. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, surely you've got you've got some sort of professionalism about you. Just let two random people that you've never met come in and talk to this high profile, like, psychotic man. But essentially we get to learn a little bit of Victor's story. So Victor has his eyes sliced up, and he's a little bit deranged. You can see that. Like, his performance is awesome. Like, it's kind of chilling to see his actual delivery of the story and the whole story behind it. You can see how his family is actually murdered, and how he's sitting there with his shotgun, where he was like a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, to the point where it becomes like deranged and a mental breakdown, and he gets arrested and brought into here. So this scene was so cool, but also the whole lead up and then the aftermath of the scene. So Victor's performance and delivery was awesome, But as they actually, after that delivery, the old head psychologist comes back and is like, no, you're busted, you can wait for the police. Where they're just walking. The guards do not look like they're efficient at their jobs at all, and surprisingly they're not. So Nancy and Robin just leg it, and they're like shocked that they're running, to the point where they're running in heels, and like they lose it. But surely the guards are kind of trained for this. Like surely they've had to, chase some patients around or something. Like, wouldn't you keep in relatively good shape? But they're at least 200 meters behind most of the time. But they, like, even when they're in the car, like, all you got to do is stand in front of the car to not let the car go, but they're standing on the side to let the car have free range. Like, they need to escape. Like, I get that, but we're at the point now where they're just comical to the whole part of Hopper in his like camp that he's doing the railroad sort of stuff. I am really keen. Well, it was a cool scene to see how he escaped, but this is kind of like Rambo, so he's able to do all sorts of things. He gets into the garden shed, and obviously one thing leads to another where things start to go wrong for him. I did like to see Hopper sort of overcome these, but as soon as he's able to escape to the point where all the guards just flock in, like, surely these guys are trained soldiers and they're just all running into the one area. Conveniently in a supply shed they have some dynamite, and he's able to set a booby trap and leg it out, but he runs away without shoes on. So is he going to get frostbite? Like, surely it looks pretty cold and they're all like rugged up, but he's running in the snow, no issues, to the point where he doesn't get any frostbite or anything. He's just running with no shoes. I feel like that would have sort of kicked in a little bit, but for the show, we want Hopper to be alive and we want him to escape, so we are cheering for him. So that, like, I enjoyed the scene, but there are issues with it in terms of him Ramboing an entire camp, and even the guards like, you've got 100 to 1 chance. So like, I'm not sure if they're pointing fun at it or they're trying to, tell the audience we're trying to have fun here. We need him to escape. We've kind of ridden ourselves into a hole. But overall, I did enjoy it, and I did like to see Hopper be able to get out and sort of make it to the church. When he's actually in the church, you can see that his feet are cold. Like, obviously, frostbite didn't sort of set in, even though he was on a speed bike, and the convenient shooting that, I guess plot armor allowed them to miss, even though they're all shooting with AK-47s to this one target that's going in a straight line. But he Ramboed it. And peanut butter is so many cases of peanut butter. It's not even the good peanut butter, but I guess they might have been sponsored by it. But you can see his joy and his relief of him actually eating peanut butter, which, I get it. Like, sure, you've probably just lived off rations for a very long time, so that would be kind of a relief to be able to get that sort of substance and the fats in as well. So fun times. With Max's peril coming in, they're trying to watch guard over her the whole time. I really liked Max's letters. Like, obviously there is that tension, and like, what would you do at the last kind of, you're sort of coming to an end if you are, but being chased and tormented by a demon in your mind. Like, you would probably write some letters or trying to communicate to those that you care about, that what your sort of last wishes were or thoughts about them were. So she gives out all the letters, and they're on the mission to give them out. There was a really cool scene where she gets to go back home, and obviously the mum appears. I really liked the tension on it. Like, I didn't actually see that little twist coming where it was old mate Vecna twisting with her mind, but that was kind of a pulling on the heartstrings, because you can see obviously Max and her family, like the family she's losing at a high rate considering Billy got done last season, and I think it's just her and her mum, where she actually gets to read the letter to Billy's grave. And the daytime horror scene is awesome. So we get to see the crew around her, and she gets lifted up into the air, and this is where the music sort of comes in. They're able to fix it with the music and put the hole in it. And like, I don't know how her knee survived it, but she dropped from a reasonable height. She didn't like duck and roll. She just plummeted once they were able to save her. So even though the scene was really, really cool, I don't know, I just, the scene where she actually drops and like I'm concerned about her knees, but I guess we don't sustain that sort of damage in these shows. But overall, daytime horror is actually really scary because you kind of expect yourself to be safe in the daytime compared to when you're actually, I guess, nighttime, you're kind of expecting the demon to come chasing you. But yeah, and when Max is actually running away, like this has to be setting up for something. She's able to go into where the big bad is and has that confrontation. She's just running in a straight line, and old mate's throwing all sorts of things at her. Like, surely with that amount of power, couldn't you throw something to like block her path? Like, you can see her end goal rather than throwing things away. I know for dramatic effect you want her to be, to get out, but he's throwing things and they're landing like behind her or to the left or the right. Surely throw it in front of her and you know where she's going. But that wouldn't play into the scene. But there were some issues, but I really enjoyed this. Like, if you I know I'm nitpicking, but this is a great episode and I am really enjoying this season. So we're going to see where it goes, and let me know what you thought about it. And if you disagree with some of my points or you agree with them, let me know in the comments below. And you know what to do. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends.